Okay, we're going to go through a new feature of Schoolbox, my college. Up to this point, we've been able to go into and look at a student and sort of get up their grades for a particular subject. I'll just take one of my students from my math class. And we've been able to sort of go into the tabs here, do grades. And up to this point, we have had the ability to go in and then say, okay, I want to look at the grades for, say, math. And then for that subject, I will get a summary graph sort of showing where the student sort of sits in relation to her group of classmates, and the marks and any comments or anything that I have made. So that's what has always existed. And you can use filters to filter out particular assessments if you want. As a quick look at what a student might be doing in a subject. But now we have a summary. We have a summary of all the courses that are classes that the student is taking. So in this case, chemistry, physics, all the marks and all the internals and carts and externals that the student has done with comments, and also with the approach to learning comments, which are the summary comments for term 2 and term 4. Now this is a staff view. So as a staff member, this is what I get to see. I get to see all of this for every subject, and the comments and so on. So for deans, for heads of subject, for tutor teachers even, this could be particularly useful. Now, what we want to be able to do with this is also be able to use it for parents being able to come into the portal in my college and be able to see this summary. Now, for them to be able to do that, the subjects or the assessments for each subject need to be entered correctly with the portal. I'll just go here, science. I just want to show you some naming conventions and the kinds of things that we have to be able to do properly in order for this to all work for parents and students as well as for staff, because ultimately we want that to be what happens. I think I'll just go into learning areas and I'm just going to bring up science, because I know that in year 11 science, they do things so that I can see them as a bunch. So if I go into year 11, I'll just go into CBN. And if I scroll down, I can get all the assessments in their assessment folder. And there they all are. So if I take a look at the naming conventions, this is a topic test. It has not got CART or EXT in front of it, or INT. So it's not going to be used as a formal assessment. It's not going to get reported on. It's not going to be used for GPA. This is an INT, an internal. It is going to be used for reports and GPAs. And when you create these assessments, you must be able to make sure that the work type is selected. So it could be, in this case, it's NCEA internal, a letter grade that is selected, and this should be open to staff, students, and parents. All internals should be accessible to parents and students around permissions to actually see this mark. And this is what's not getting done, and this is what needs to be done, because if we're going to use this summary so that the parents can see a summary similar to this one, not exactly the same, but very similar, then the permissions for assessments, formal assessments, must be open to parents. So for example, this is an EXT term 2 topic test that's going to get reported on, and it needs to have some sort of a work type. So this is an assessment task. It needs to have a letter grade, but it needs to be opened to everybody, staff, students, and their parents. So basically any CART or any EXT when you create the assessments, it needs to have permissions for everybody to be able to see it. Now, you might not want to do that right away if it's an internal and you have to go through moderations, but don't publish. Hang on to it and publish when everybody can then see it successfully. So this is a summary that is available in my college. Staff can see everything that has been done in all the comments, but we also want parents to be able to see this. And this can be done in lieu of an interim report or even a term 2 report. Everything is here. Now, you might not want parents to see every single thing. And, if you have just sort of like topic tests that you don't necessarily need somebody to see, then you don't need to select parent permissions to see it. But most of your assessments should be picked that way. Now, comp, which is your compassionate grades, obviously there are exceptions to this for sure. They do not need to have, no, this has not been done. They do not need to have permissions to parents. In fact, you don't want them to have permissions to parents. These compassionates haven't been done. Oops. But you get the idea. You get the idea that you do not want your compassionates to show up on the parent portal. So in here, if I was to look at how I would set this up, this compassionate for this particular external, it doesn't have to have a work type. Compassionates don't have to have a work type, and they don't have to be opened to parents and students because they're not going to be. This is just our own bookkeeping and for Joe Palmer. But we want this summary to work. We want it to show a student's summary of marks. We want them to be able to see, parents to be able to see this summary of marks as a working live thing. So we need you to publish. We need you to then make sure that these assessments are open to parents and students. So all CARTs in all EXTs need to be, once published, opened to parents and students.